Coverage of the 7th Devolution Conference right here in Makueni County. We are coming to you live from Makueni County. We have had a lot being discussed during the first day of the conference, and to help me dissect some of the issues that we had on day one is none other but the professor himself, that's Anyang Nyong'o. Professor Anyang Nyong'o is the governor of Kisumu County. Welcome to our set, sir.
Thank you.
So a lot has come up, during a lot of issues came to the fore during the first day of the Devolution Conference. We all know that it has been themed around matters climate change. This issue of funding for action, a lot of people are saying that there must be legislation for funding, and senators have said that they are going to back it up. Where do you think the problem lies? Why is there so much push and pull when it comes to funding for climate action?
I really don't think there's push and pull, if I have to be frank. There's really no push and pull. What needs to be done is just for decisions to be made, for funds to be available for supporting climate change. I mean, the laws are there. I mean, at county level and national level, that's not a problem. And money just needs to be available to implement appropriate programs for responding to climate change. Mitigation measures. I mean, for example, some may be long-term, some short-term. For example, flooding, if you take it. I mean, there are certain long-term measures that can be taken to stop flooding. In my case, in Kisumu County, if the Korusoen multipurpose dam is built, and it has been in the works since 1951, up to now, every time it's planned to build it from colonial times to now, it's never been built. But now, we are ready to build it, really. The government is ready to build it. Everything has been done. So money should be made available to build the Korusoen multipurpose dam, to control the flow of water on River Nyando. Whether it is rain or doesn't rain, there will be a control of that water so that it doesn't flood. That is the long-term solution to flooding on the River Nyando. And it will be good also for farming, because then you can use the water for irrigation, you can use the water for even producing hydropower to some extent, where possible. You use it for all kinds of purposes, really, but mainly irrigation, without flooding the basin of the River Nyando. And that's really the solution to the problem. But in the meantime, before that happens, we must take certain mitigation measures when people lose their homes because of flooding, when schools are destroyed because of flooding, when pastures are completely flooded and you can't graze your cattle, when the rice paddies are completely washed out, then there must be resources to mitigate against such disasters, because you can't let people suffer simply because there's a disaster which is beyond their control.
Well, another issue that came about during today's, or rather the day one of the conference, is that there are a lot of people who act with a lot of impunity. There are people who contaminate the environment and no action is taken on them. I want to hear your thoughts on that.
My thoughts on that are very clear. For example, just as I was coming here today, I got an information that some people have been mining gold in my own county, in one part of my county, and they have completely ravaged the environment. Somebody sent me photographs, and it was horrible. I mean, canyon dug, and we don't even know these people. They never came through the county. So that was yesterday, actually. No, it wasn't today. So I sent my security people and people from the Department of Environment and Natural Resources to go there, and they found a whole bunch of people. Some from, I don't know where, some from all parts of Kenya doing illegal mining of gold there, you see, and completely destroying the environment, destroying roads, destroying bridges. And this was happening, and apparently the local administration never informed us. That means that they're bribing the local administration, both the county administration and the national government administration, because they should have told us. But now that we have known it, we are going to take very stern measures and stop it. Another thing is that we see, for example, people who mine or who dig stones and gravel and even the earth itself from the countryside, we are taking very strict measures, because then they don't reclaim the environment when they have done that. And that is an environmental disaster. These things, we must take them very seriously and make sure that we kind of control and maintain our environment for the future and for posterity. Yeah.
Well, Governor, we cannot talk about climate change without also talking about the issue of security, and that also came out on day one very well. We all know the issue of Migingo Island. It was highlighted during one of the sessions on day one of the conference. What are your views about that?
My views about that, really, Migingo is a very unfortunate case. I think the two states really should make a decision and settle it. For all intents and purposes, the map that was drawn in colonial times, which we respected at independence, and I think we should have respected that map on both sides of the divide, puts Migingo on the Kenyan side. And really, Kenya is such a small part of the lake, the Nyanza Gulf. It's a tiny fraction of the lake. Uganda and Tanzania are much bigger share of the lake that was drawn arbitrarily by the colonial government. Now, if we can respect their boundaries, having a bigger share of the lake, really having this small share that we have, it's kind of mean, I would say, for Uganda to begin invading Migingo and claiming that on the Ugandan side when we have never made any kind of claim on Uganda. I really think that in the spirit of East African cooperation, that thing should be settled once and for all. And of course, I think both the Prime Minister and Dr. Fred Matiang'i made a very important point that, look, these things you're seeing in Laikipia, cattle rusting, is caused by climate change. Because if you don't have grass on your side of Laikipia, and the other side has grass, okay, and you can't take your cattle there to go and graze, your temptation to go there and steal the cattle from there, who are healthy and nice, and you want to sell something and you don't have any other way of getting money because you are a pastoralist, and your pasture has been destroyed by drought. And the other side, it looks good. I mean, there's a temptation to that effect. So then you find conflict among pastoralists in Laikipia from both sides of the ethnic divide because of climate change. Now, we really must, as a nation, now try and mitigate this. One thing to do is, how do you guarantee access to green pasture to pastoralists wherever they are? What does it cost to make sure that they have access to green pasture? Or when there is drought, can we have a system of taking hay to them, for example, and then agreeing with them when they sell their herds, how much they pay back, to make sure that this supply of hay during drought is something that can be done continuously by both sides paying something to it. I mean, these things are possible if we plan well.
Entrepreneurs around the country are creatively grinding.
I started with a borrowed phone.
A borrowed phone?
Yeah, that could last 2 hours with charge.
We just have to do quality work for them.
To make their mark in an unpredictable market.
It was now going on a sales venture, looking for stockists, door to door.
On the grind, we bring you their stories so you can tell yours. Every Monday at 7:30 p.m.
Done all it can to mitigate the harmful effects of climate change?
Well, I don't know. I really can't judge the private sector. I really don't know, to tell you the truth, because I don't have the information, I don't have the data. As a government in Kisumu, when we have this crisis, the private sector responds, they respond with emergency food, emergency clothes and things like those, and sometimes they even help us build temporary shelters for these people. So the business community, as it were, in Kisumu is usually very good in responding to a crisis caused by flooding on the Nyando River, or some. We don't have serious droughts in Kisumu. Our problem has really been just the issue of flooding, and I think I can't complain about the response of the private sector. I think they've been pretty decent.
You have an economic bloc that you belong to. What has your economic bloc done also to mitigate the harmful effects of climate change?
Well, we cooperate, really. We cooperate at the level of Lake Region Economic Bloc, sharing information. And of course, supporting each other in whatever way we can. When we have people crossing over from one country to the other, we are very careful how we deal with it. When there's simmering conflict at the borders, we as government are very quick to meet and find a peaceful way of settling those conflicts. We have been cooperating with the National Integration and Cohesion Commission over these issues, and I think the National Integration and Commission, led by the chairman, has been pretty helpful in trying to create an understanding on border communities on how to avoid conflict, but instead resolve them whenever they are threatening to appear peacefully. Yeah.
Well, Mheshimiwa, this conference right now comes at the backdrop of the global one that took place at Glasgow. That's the COP26, and a lot of people have been saying that Africans, are the ones who emit the least, or rather they have the least carbon footprint as compared to other major developed countries. But Africa is the one that suffers the most. African countries suffer the most. What do you think Africans should do as we move forward to COP27?
I think I've been thinking about it. I thought of writing something called "The Earth is Round." Mm-hmm. The Earth is round, meaning wherever you live, as the Earth turns on its orbit around the sun, you immediately share space where your brother was the previous day. See what I mean?
Yes.
So you can't really treat your brother in Asia or in Latin America as not your brother, because where Latin America was in the morning, okay, in terms of facing the sun, we may be there at midnight, okay? So we are all going around the Earth's orbit, partaking of what is in the atmosphere. So what we suffer today because of global warming, because the other side put greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, we should all try and solve that problem, because the Earth is round. One of these days, something will happen to us, which, because the Earth is round, harms the other side, okay? At that point in time, of course, they will come and say, you caused this thing, we have to solve it together, because the Earth is round. Now, I think what was shown in Glasgow was a kind of attitude by the polluters, as it were, those who emit greenhouse gases most into the atmosphere, because they are industrialized, they're using fossil fuels, they're still mining coal in big numbers, in quantities, and they're still using that coal to do all kinds of things, or they import that coal from developing countries and use it, you know what I mean? Now, of course, because they are industrialized. But you see, because the Earth is round, who knows one of these days what will happen to that industrialization? And then how will they come and talk to us? So I think it's important that because the Earth is round, because we share this atmosphere globally, when something happens to it, we should all come together and find a collective solution to this problem. Why the West cannot understand this, I don't understand, you see. And I think the Prime Minister of Barbados made it very clear that we were there to make a decision whether all those people suffering in the Caribbean whose islands are sinking have nowhere to go, whether they're really part of this Earth which is round. If there are, then we need to respond to their concerns, you see. And I think, you see, the life is not just about dollars and cents. Life is also about other things. Okay, so if those polluters are just counting dollars and cents, they're getting it wrong, really. Dollars and cents are just a means of accessing material or accessing knowledge or accessing, resources to deal with the Earth's problem that may appear differently in different parts of the Earth.
Well, Mheshimiwa, when you talk about dollars and cents, I'd like to, bring your attention to the fact that I've had the opportunity to speak to a lot of attendees in this conference. Some of them are development partners, and who also believe that, one of the best solutions that we have within our reach is, hard funding, just hard funding?
Well, I mean, look, surely, quite on it. I really sometimes don't like to dwell too much on that. Look, why would the US have an embassy in Nairobi? Why would Great Britain have a high commission in Nairobi? Why would Kenya have a high commissioner in London? Why would Kenya have an ambassador in Washington? Why? Because we are interested in interstate relations. And we are there because those ambassadors and high commissioners are there because when one country wants to reach the other, they have an immediate point of call. That immediate point of call could be that a British citizen is stranded in Kenya and needs to get out. Or a British firm is being asked to pay too much taxes contrary to what they think they should pay. So you listen to what the problem is in order to find a solution amicably. Okay. If finding a solution amicably, again, about certain problems facing us means that Britain or the US has to pay some money, it's no different from somebody taking up his pen in Harambee House and writing something which would make a British citizen be liberated under certain conditions. Because once he's liberated, you have saved Britain a lot of cost. So was it to go to court and be fined and things like those? So it is a reciprocal interest or mutual interest in helping each other solve problems that face the globe. That problem can appear anywhere. At this point in time, it so happens that Britain and the US are more developed than modern Africa. But if you read Walter Rodney's book, How Europe Underdeveloped Africa, which was written in 1973, it will tell you quite clearly that the wealth that the Europe accumulated over the years, colonial times and even before, came from Africa. So Africa sacrificed its own development of its civilizations so that Europe could develop. It was not a voluntary thing. There were no embassies of Africa in Britain doing it. It was through coercion. Up to today, what the French did with French colonies, that the condition of giving independent French colonies was that they have to deposit their money in French banks. You know what I mean? So that they pay for what the French call the costs of being decolonized, which they are paying up to now. They have a currency called franc CFA, which is essentially pegged to the French central bank. They don't have a monetary system of their own. So I don't know what the figure is. There's billions of dollars that is really transferred from French-speaking Africa to France to this very day. So then when France does something to these countries, you have to take that into account. And we should talk about it honestly, fairly, honestly, And even Kenya, if you remember, the people in Kericho County have been fighting a battle for making sure that the tea farms, which the settlers came and British companies are still using up to now, that was an ancestral land that was taken from them involuntarily. And they think it's high time that injustice is settled. They're not going to go back and say how much money have been going to Britain. No, that's gone. That went to build railways in Britain and so on, and it's a gone deal. But we are just saying, okay, that's gone, but now, can we look at this thing fairly and settle it? Now, I think sometimes when we in Africa raise these issues, the West becomes very defensive. I don't think, facts are stubborn. Facts speak louder than the word. If there are facts in what I'm saying, then I think those facts should be used to make the world fairer, or to correct the mistakes of history, past history.
Well, before I let you leave, politicians are shapers of opinion. their opinion leaders. There's something that the former PM called, politics of climate change. Politicians using this subject to benefit themselves, sometimes negatively. I want to hear your opinion on that.
Well, I don't know. I really don't know I don't know people who use. I mean, it's just like the COVID-19 thing, that there were COVID-19 billionaires. I mean,
do you think the issue of Mau Forest falls under that?
Mau Forest fell under that, quite honestly, because you see, then the Prime Minister was trying to do something very rational. He said, these are our water towers. They are water towers because they have trees. And from the geography we learned in primary school, even intermediate school then, was that during the day, human beings breathe carbon dioxide. Trees and grass and so on absorb that carbon dioxide. That is what they need to live. At night, they then release oxygen to us. So there's a kind of balance of nature. We used to call it balance of nature. Our teacher called it balance of nature. There must be a balance of nature, a cohabitation between human beings and nature and forest and trees and so on, because we coexist. Now, if you go to Mau Forest and cut the trees, of course you are disturbing the balance of nature. You are disturbing rain. Actually, it has been proven, there's literature to the effect that with global warming, diseases like hypertension, heart attack, and so on have increased. There's data to that effect. Now, in our rural communities, you're beginning to see hypertension, diabetes, heart attacks, and so on, more than before. And apparently, this is being traced to partly global warming. You see what I mean? I was reading, in fact, I took some notes to that effect somewhere last night to that effect. And so when the Prime Minister was doing that, then people turned it around, or you are evicting our people. But those people may momentarily feel they're gaining by having somewhere to have homes. And they're doing it by cutting trees. Very soon they will not be able to live there because there will be no water, there will be drought. Then where do they go? They are being penny wise and pounds foolish. You see what I mean? So the Prime Minister was saying, look, I'm sorry, this may not be politically correct as far as you are concerned because you voted for me, but I'm looking at it in their interest, in the long term, and the interest of your children. Save the forest so that we can get the rain, so that we can take you somewhere where that rain will also help you, and the balance of nature will also be restored. When you breathe carbon dioxide, the plants will take it in as food. They will give you oxygen, which makes you survive, which perhaps, by the way, reduces your chances of getting high blood pressure and diabetes. I don't know.
Well, thank you very much, Governor Anyang Nyong'o. Governor Anyang Nyong'o is the governor for Kisumu County. Professor Anyang Nyong'o is the governor for Kisumu County, talking passionately about matters climate change. This is part of our continued coverage of the 7th Devolution Conference right here in Makueni County. But now it's time to take a very short break. We'll be right back.
Well, Eric Munene, we are not taking that